Okay, so what's up guys? Today I thought I'd teach you guys a little bit about the skills and what I've learned about them during my 10 new game plus runs. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of decent ones, there's a lot of bad ones, and it doesn't exactly say which are the good ones and which are the bad ones for any specific build. So that's why I thought I'd run this through you guys quickly. I will try and be as quick as possible, but there is a lot of information here. There's a lot of different skills. So I will try to be as efficient as I can, even though this will be somewhat of a lengthy video. So starting off at tier 1, that's the top tier, as you can see in any skills. You have to get I believe it is 3 points into tier 1 before you can progress to tier 2, and then you have to get a certain amount of skill points in tier 1 and 2 to unlock tier 3, and likewise goes for tier 4. So the more skills you put into a certain category, the more tiers you get access to in that category. Now first of all, we have boxing in physical. Boxing is a little two-edged sword because it affects unarmed attacks, which is just your fists with no weapons attached at all. That means even no melee weapons. But 25% less O2 used when using power attacks. This goes for all melees, so even with a melee weapon. So this could be a decent one if you're going for a melee build to unlock. The chance to knock down opponents is not really worth it. I don't think it's worth 4 skill points, so if you're running a melee build with regular melee weapons, I would stop at rank 3. Now the second perk is fitness. Fitness will affect how much oxygen you have available. Oxygen is kind of like stamina, so this will give you essentially more stamina. Rank 4 is really good because both sprinting and power attacks use significantly less oxygen, and from what I've experienced, it's about half. So you're cutting the amount of stamina you're using for power attacks and sprinting in half, which can be really good. Stealth is one of the better skills for a lot of quest lines that you have. I always run at least a couple of perks in stealth every playthrough, just because it's absolutely amazing. And it affects how easily you are spotted. First one adds a stealth meter, which essentially is the little meter that says hidden, shows you if you're detected or not. And the further you progress in stealth, the harder you are to detect. You also deal slightly more sneak attack damage, which is damage that you deal to people whilst hidden. So just think of it the same way as Skyrim or Fallout, essentially. And the fourth tier is also really good because there's a new mechanic that we haven't seen too much before in Bethesda games, and that is doors you interact with while in stealth no longer alert enemies. So if you don't have this unlocked, opening a door can alert a nearby enemy. This is really good for a lot of the stealth missions, and if you just want to do a stealth gameplay in general. So I think rank 4 here for a stealth build is a must. Now we come to one of the most important perks in the game, which is weightlifting. Weightlifting increases your total carrying capacity by different amounts of kilograms or mass. I feel it's kind of weird that they call it kilograms here, because in the inventory it's mass, but yeah. And this is something I would put as much skill points as you can into it as early as possible, just because it's gonna earn you so much money by being able to carry so much more back and forth to your ship. and loot much more items. It also enables you to run heavier gear, seeing you have more to go by when it comes to carry weights, and just the spacesuits can weigh up towards 20 kilos. So yeah, this here is a must for basically any playthrough. Wellness just increases your health by 7%. I don't think this is important unless you're playing on harder difficulties or is constantly dying. I would not spend too much skill points into this one. I have on this playthrough because I'm playing on harder difficulties, but as I said, if you're just doing a normal playthrough and you don't really have a hard time fighting enemies, I think this should just be left as is and invested into other perks that affects damage or so. Next one, energy weapon dissipation. So this is basically how much damage you take from energy weapons. The first 3 tier is straightforward. It reduces the damage by 5, 10 and 15%, but by rank 4, 25% chance to reflect energy damage back to an attacker when your health is below 50, which means when you're under half health, you have a 25% chance that the enemy shooting you takes the damage that you would have taken. So this can be really good in some situations. I don't know if it's a bug or not, but this does not work on laser turrets and energy damage dealing robots and turrets. So this is more for just humanoid enemies, basically. Next one is environmental conditioning. This is honestly one of the worst perks in the game, because you are spending very valuable perk points for something that your clothing, spacesuit and others can account for. It just gives you resistance to airborne environmental damage, thermal environmental damage, resistant to corrosive and radiation, and reduced chance to gain afflictions from environmental damage. Which basically means that, say you are on a very hot planet, it gives you 10% or 10 more resistance to the hot damage that you can get from that, as well as rank 4 then would reduce the chances of getting, say, burns or corrosive damage and stuff like that. So this I think is really not usable at all, and I think that spending any points into this would just be wasting valuable points. The next one is gymnastic. Now, gymnastic sounds really cool, but it's also another one of the useless ones. Now, on rank 1 you unlock the ability to combat slide and take 15% less fall damage. Fall damage can be zeroed out by basically any boost pack, by boost packing right before you land. And the combat slide is incredibly slow. It is, you lose a lot of speed, you lose a lot of momentum. If you're doing a melee build, being up close, I would rather just sprint at the enemy than actually using this. Move faster in 0G, take 20% less fall damage. Now there are almost no 0G in the game, so I would really not spend valuable points into this, because you're mostly at places where there is a gravity. Become more stable while firing in 0G, so that just lessens the blowback when you fire ballistic weapons in 0G. Because in the game, if you shoot in 0G, you're getting pushed back, so it just reduces this. And replenish some O2 after mantling. That means when you're jumping and mantling over something, you lose a little bit of O2, you will replenish some. And rank 4 is increased jump height. I would not have this because it's more a pain in the ass. Now, it's maybe a little bit useful if you're in a heavy gravity planet, but it will take so long to land every single time you're on a low G planet. Because the jump height is essentially doubled. So I would rather just spend some money on a good boost pack rather than spend a perk point here. Next one, nutrition. Now nutrition is one of the opposites. It's one of those that seems really bad but really is amazing, because food and drinks are horrible ways of healing. You get basically no health points from it at all, but the effectiveness does not only go for the healing part, it also goes for the different stats, and there are a lot of good stats that you get from food and drink. For example, you get damage resistance, a damage buff to dealt to enemies, as well as even XP buffs. This one is amazing in increasing those buffs that you can get from food without getting addiction by taking drugs. So I would really invest a lot of points into this if you're considering about power leveling, or you often use the effects that you get from food and drinks. The next one is pain tolerance, which increases the physical damage that you can block out. So like you have a reduced damage taken from hostiles, as well as rank 4 5% chance to ignore your physical damage when your health is low. Yet again, another one that looks good but really isn't, because if you don't have problems with dying constantly, I would just leave this as is and not spend too much point into it, just because you get so little from your perk points that it's not really worth it until you have way too many points to spend and just need to spend them into something. Next one, cellular regeneration. Slightly increased chance to recover from injuries. Naturally, this is, for example, when you get a bleed, when you break a leg and stuff like that. Something you already have a chance of healing from, but instead of spending skill points again, use meds. They cost nothing, you get them everywhere. There are med stations and you can loot everywhere. So this is really yet another waste of skill points. Decontamination, slightly increased chance to recover from infections, and it grows until rank 3. Rank 4 is 20% chance not gaining infection when you otherwise would. Same as the last one, just that this is for infections instead, and same answer as the last one, just use meds. Martial arts. This is the first proper melee skill. First one is 15% increased chance to crit with melee or unarmed attack. Second one is a 15% chance to disarm an opponent with a melee or unarmed power attack. So this is just power attacks. On PC you use V, so it's not the mouse button. I'm not sure on console, but it's not regular attacks, it's just power attacks. While on rank 3, while unarmed or wielding a melee weapon, take 10% damage. This makes you a little bit more buff when meleeing, which can be useful for a melee build because you're really up close for everything, and there's a lot of shotguns and SMGs in this game that can bring your health down quickly if your up close is your build. And finally, rank 4, reflect 50% damage back when blocking a melee or attack. Now this is not that useful again, other for, let's say you're taking down very high level animal or alien enemies. That's the only place where this is useful. So if you're hunting that specific enemies, I would spend points into this. If not, I would stop at rank 3 and combine the melee build with boxing to get the reduced O2 usage. Now, for the last tier of physical, this is a really good tier again. Very good tier. This is typical, think Skyrim stealth archer kind of build. It's amazing. Rank 1, you no longer set off enemy mines, which can be annoying, but it's usually not that big of a problem. Range sneak attacks do 2.5 times more damage, and your melee sneak attacks do 4 times normal damage. And same one for rank 2, just with higher numbers, as well as running while sneaking doesn't affect stealth. Rank 3, you gain a chameleon-like ability when completely still and sneaking, which means the perk that you can get on your armor, chameleon, you don't have to look for that anymore if you're going for a stealth build. So this is really good. I think it gives you the ability to find another perk on your clothing, so you don't have to run chameleon if you're running a stealth build. I think that's really good. Rank 4, engaging stealth causes distant enemies to lose you. Ranged sneak attacks do 4 times normal damage, and your melee attacks does 10 times normal damage. So this, if you're going for stealth build, I would certainly put a lot of points into this. Just if you're running a ranged build as well, I would still put a lot of points into this, just because of the damage buffs. And say you are engaging a location with a lot of enemies, and you are able to find, because there's usually a high HP enemy with what I like to call the triple red bar, which are much more powerful enemies. If you are able to engage that person first, say with a high damage rifle, and get the damage buff from here, the rest would be a cakewalk. So this is a very powerful perk. Next one is Neuro Strikes. 10% chance to stun an NPC with an unarmed attack, which can be really good. Now, this works the same way as if you're using the non-lethal EM weapons. So you're getting a build-up essentially on rank 2. Of that, rank 3, 20% chance to stun an NPC with unarmed attack, so 1 out of 5 hits will stun them. And rank 4, after stunning an enemy, you also knock down any enemies within close range. Now this has to be very close range, so it's really not that usual unless you lead that enemy in towards a massive group of other enemies. So I would kind of consider rank 4 and saving that perk point for another perk, but still, yeah, still a decent perk. Next one, we have Social, and seeing this game is massive when it comes to socializing, talking, figuring things out, persuading and stuff like that. This is a very important skill category. First of all, we have Commerce. Now this is a two-edged blade, because you buy for less and you sell for more, essentially. That's all this perk does. But the problem is that traders are usually capped at around between 5,000 to 8,000 credits per trader, which is really low. It is extremely low, even for a Bethesda game. So you're gonna constantly have the problem running that the traders run out of money. You have certain traders that can go up to 11,000 to 12,000 credits, but still really not that useful. Only time I see this one useful would be for you space pirates out there that are constantly stealing ships and looking to sell them to the ship traders for a profit. Those are the only ones that has enough cash for this to actually make a big difference. So if that's your thing, to go and steal spaceships and sell them, I would get these perks. If not, I would just leave it. Next one is Gastronomy, which allows you to craft different tiers of food and drink and research recipes at research labs. This is a very good perk because it allows you to take very low cost ingredients and craft very expensive foods. Some foods that are worth up into the thousands of credits, from essentially foods that costs a couple of credits. So this can be a really good money-making method right here. One of the most important skills in the entire game is persuasion. It increases the chance of success when persuading someone up to 50%. Now, this means that you can, instead of doing petty tasks for people all the time, you can just persuade straight past it. And there's a lot of the game that you can use persuasion to get around problems or just boring tasks. So this is something I really recommend speccing into early on. The next one is scavenging, which means rank 1 gives you extra credits when looting, rank 2 is extra ammo, so I think up to rank 2 is essential because ammo is often a problem in any Bethesda game. Rank 3 is extra aid items like medpacks and chems, and rank 4 is tracked resources while get highlighted when using the hand scanner. Now, tracked resources, a lot of people don't know what it is, but it is essentially just like Fallout when you lack an item to craft a mod or to craft anything in the outpost. You can press a specific button, it says at the bottom, I can't remember which one it is, and you can track that resource. It will get highlighted, so it's same as the perk that you have in, say, Fallout 4. It will just glow when there's a container containing that specific item. Next one is theft. Rank 1 unlocks the ability to pickpocket, so before you get this one you can't pickpocket anyone. Rank 2 increases the chance of successfully pickpocketing, same with rank 3 and same with rank 4, but you can also pickpocket holstered weapons, which means you can steal all the weapons of the enemies and they are stuck with just using fists. So kind of funny, kind of memey perk for any stealth build. Next one and the first one in tier 2 is deception. Deception is really good for you space pirates or everyone that is gonna run counterfeit item or contraband. I'm sorry. Ships 10% stronger will automatically surrender to piracy demands, which means when you hail a ship and use the piracy dialogue, ships 10% stronger than your ship will surrender. Enemy contraband scans are 10% less effective, which means that when you're going into a system where there's a government that does regular contraband scans, they have a 10% chance to fail. The buffs are increased by going to rank 2 and rank 3 and all the way up to 50% at rank 4 for both things. Next one we have diplomacy. Now, diplomacy is another cool one. You can force a target NPC at or below your level to stop fighting for a while. This goes up to 20 level higher than you to stop fighting for a while, and rank 4 is amazing. You can force an NPC to stop fighting in general. So if you're going a pacifist route, which is amazingly something people still do to this day in Bethesda games, this is a must-have perk, but for everyone else it's a somewhat handy perk. Next one is intimidation. You can force NPC at or below your level to flee for a time. You can force 10 levels higher, 20 levels higher at rank 3, and then at rank 4 intimidated targets now flee or for a substantial amount of time, which means for a long ass time essentially. We don't have any specific numbers for the amount of time right now though. Isolation is amazing. This can be looked similarly to the Lone Wolf perk back in Fallout 4. You gain a damage buff and damage resistant for each spacesuit and helmet equipped. Seeing you can have one spacesuit and one helmet equipped, that means that you can double the numbers, but if you are running new game with the armor you get from new game, which is both helmet and spacesuit in one, you can only double this one time, so 10% and 15 damage resistance for that. The buffs continue to grow. It doubles for rank 2 and it adds another 10% and 15 damage resistant at rank 3. Rank 4 is up to 40% weapon damage and 60 damage resistance. So at max, if you have a helmet and a spacesuit equipped, this means you get 80% and 120 damage resistance. Next one is negotiation, which allows you to do bribery. First one allows you to do bribery in speech challenges, which means you can bribe people in dialogue. Rank 2 reduces bribery cost by 25%, rank 3 reduces it by half, and rank 4 occasionally bribery won't cost any money. So yet another one for the pacifists or the people that want to get around by just doing dialogue and don't want to do tedious tasks. This is a decent perk. Instigation. Now, you can force a target NPC at or below your level to attack their allies for a limited time, so this is essentially the same perk as the ones that makes the enemies to flee, just I would say this is way better because it makes them team up with you. So it can make fights a lot easier. You have the same 10 levels higher and 20 levels higher for rank 3. In rank 4, enemies affected by instigation will attack their allies until they are dead, which is really good. That means you have a permanent ally until they are killed or you go away from that location. So next one is leadership. Leadership affects mostly your companions and is the opposite of isolation. Now the first one means that you gain affinity 25% faster, which means your companions will like you much faster. I believe there is a perk in the game for gaining max affinity, not perk, I'm sorry, there is a achievement. So if you're going for that, this can be really good. If you're going for romance with any character, this is really good. Rank 2 companions have 50 more health and 50 more carrying capacity, which can be good if you need a good old Lydia that can carry all your stuff. Rank 3 companions will occasionally heal you when you get low health, and rank 4 doubles the bonuses on combat and physical crew skills on companions. Now, crew skills will often have different perks from this perk tree unlocked, which means they get extra damage or extra spaceship damage that will also buff onto you. So this can be a really good perk to get, because if you're looking for companions for their skills, which is a lot of the reason to go with a companion, I would play into this and put into this. This is sort of mid to high level perk, but I would still get this. Companions have a chance to pick themselves up from a down state, and that's because in Starfield, when a companion is down, they are downed until the fight is over, unless you heal them. So you can, here you have the chance to get the good old Fallout or Skyrim where they pick themselves up. The next one, outpost management, increases rank 1 increases additional cargo links can be placed at outpost. Rank 2, additional robots can be constructed at outpost, which is really good because robots can increase the percentage that your outpost is creating or mining items. Rank 3, additional crew can be assigned to outposts, which means you can get more buffs from crew. And rank 4 outpost extractors produce twice as fast, which is really good if you're going the outpost way to create money farms. I would spec into this with no doubt. Next one, and we are now at tier 4. Manipulation. You can force a target NPC at or below your level to obey commands for a limited time. This is essentially mostly just for speech and dialogue, but this has come in really handy for me. Same with the other ones similar to this one. 10 levels higher for rank 2, 20 levels higher for rank 3. In rank 4, manipulated targets now obey commands for a substantial amount of time. Next one is ship command, which just increases how many active crew members you can have in your ship by 4, 5, 6 and 8 depending on the rank. Xenosociology. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm Norwegian, so English isn't my first language, but you probably already guessed. But yeah, you can force a target alien creature up to 10 levels higher than you to stop fighting. Rank 2 is 10 levels higher, can flee for a limited amount of time. Rank 3 is you can force an alien creature up to 10 levels higher than you to attack their allies, which means it becomes your ally for a limited amount of time. In rank 4, you can force a target creature up to 10 levels higher than you to obey commands for a limited time. Now this is only for alien creatures. This does not work for humanoid creatures. So this is just for aliens. But for certain quest lines, I do believe that this would be really good. Other than that, you won't really use it, so yeah, do with that as you will. Now, we've come to one of the most straightforward ones, which is combat, which is still kind of confusing, even though it's very straightforward. First one is ballistic, which increases your ballistic damage in the first 3 tiers, and tier 4 is increasing the range. Now by ballistic weapons, it means weapons that fires a physical bullet and uses physical cartridges for its ammunition. Next one is dueling, which is another melee weapon damage buff, and taking less damage while wielding a melee weapon. Rank 2 melee kills make you run 20% faster for 10 seconds. Rank 3 melee weapons do 50% more damage and take 15% less damage whilst wielding a melee weapon. And rank 4 melee kills heal you for 10% of your health. So rank 4 is really amazing if you're doing a melee build, because this will constantly heal you during battle when killing. Next one is lasers. Laser weapons do 10% more damage, 20% more damage, 30% more damage, and finally at rank 4, laser weapons have 5% chance to set a target on fire. Now, laser weapons, it says which weapons are laser weapons, so it should not be confused with, say, EM weapons, which is the how am I gonna say it? Then weapons that don't kill, but they just knock people unconscious. Next one is pistols. Pistol do 10, 25 and 50% more damage. With rank 4, pistol kills grant 25% critical hit chance for 5 seconds. Very straightforward. Same with shotgun, 10%, 20%, 30% more damage, and then at rank 4, shotgun kills grant a small chance to stun additional targets with shotguns for a limited time. Demolitions is for explosives that you throw. This can go for grenades and for mines. Now throwing grenades now shows trajectory arc, which shows you where the grenade you're throwing will land. Explosions have a 25% larger radius, which means you are more likely to hit your target with the explosion. Rank 2 does 25% more damage, rank 3 reduces damage taken by 25%, and rank 4 doubles all the previous bonuses in this skill tree. Next one is heavy weapons, which can mean grenade launchers, or I do believe the miniguns that are in the game, with damage buffs of 10, 20 and 30%, and at rank 4 gain 25% physical resistance while aiming down sights with a heavy weapon. So not really useful for grenade launchers, but it will be really useful if you're running a minigun sort of tank build. Next one we have Incapitation, which is the EM weapons that will stun. It is really amazing for damaging robots, by the way, but I think that it's good for humanoids when you don't want to kill and lose or get a very high bounty from killing someone. So this can be really useful. It's also very useful in a couple of the stealth quests. So it buffs by 5, 10 and 15% damage, and at rank 4 EM weapons have a 50% chance to do 300% EM damage. I don't think this is too good of a perk, because 15% chance of doing 300% EM damage is, in my head, mathematically not worth it, but yeah. Next one we got is Particle Beams, which buffs particle beam weapons with 10, 20 and 30% damage, and gives a 5% crit chance buff at rank 4. Marksmanship, and now we're really getting into the Skyrim stealth archer sort of builds. Rank 1 increases critical hit chance with non-automatic weapons, and I'm not sure, so don't take me on the word for this, but I think this also goes for burst weapons, but I know for a fact it goes for semi-auto weapons and bolt action weapons. It increases range by 3%. Rank 2 by 8, rank 3 by 15, and rank 4 critical hits using a non-automatic ranged weapon without a scope do double damage, and those with scopes knock down enemies on the next shot. So that means if you don't have a sight on your weapon and you're running iron sight, you do double damage, and those with scope knock down enemies on the next shot. That's just for critical hits. Next one is Rapid Reloading, which increases the reload speed, where rank 1 is Ballistic by 30%, rank 2 is Energy and EM by 30%, rank 3 is Particle Beam Weapons by 30%, while also giving 50% chance to avoid getting interrupted while reloading. The interruption buff will count for all of your weapons while reloading. And rank 4, chance on hitting enemies to increase reload speed for all weapons by 50% for 15 seconds. Next one is Sniper Certification. This is essentially just for weapons that has a scope. It doesn't have to be a sniper, it just helps that if it has a scope. If you put a scope on it, this perk counts. Scope weapons are steadier and have less sway. Rank 2, you can hold your breath longer, which essentially just means you use less O2 when holding your breath. Rank 3, headshots while aiming a scoped weapon have a plus 25% critical hit chance, and at rank 4 scoped weapons do 50% more damage while using the scope, which means ADSing will give you a 50% more damage. This is really powerful as long as you have a scope on your weapon, and you can really stack this with other buffs to have a insanely high damage dealing weapons. Next one is targeting, and this one is a little confusing to some people, but it means when you're aiming you can essentially get wall hacks on that enemy you were aiming on. Increased accuracy and range when shooting without aiming, which is hip firing, marks up to one enemy with a 25 meter that damages it. So that's the wall hack part. Rank 2 notably increases accuracy and range while not aiming, and marks up to 2 enemies within 50 meters. Rank 3 greatly increases accuracy and marks up to 3 enemies within 75 meters, and rank 4 10% chance to disarming targets when shooting without aiming, which is again hip firing, marks up to 4 enemies within 100 meters. And now we are on rank 4 or tier 4 of the combat's skill. Armor penetration, which means your attacks ignore armor by 15, 30 and 50%, and at rank 4 enemy armor is decreased by 25% for 6 seconds after a critical hit, which means it takes essentially 25% of the armor points that the enemies has on their armor away for 6 seconds when you get a critical hit. Next one is crippling. Human enemies have 30% increased chance to enter a down state after taking enough damage, which means a down state will be they are crawling around and cannot fire their weapon. They will be crawling really slowly. Second one, humanoid. So rank 1 is human, while second is humanoid. Enemies have a 50% increased chance not to naturally recover from a down state, because over time they will recover from down states. Rank 3, human enemies now can enter a down state earlier, which means you need to deal less damage to them before they go in a down state. Rank 4, previous ranks now apply to all enemy types, which essentially means it just includes robots and aliens as well. You now do 100% more damage to down enemies. Now we're getting into one of my favorite skill trees, which is science, and there's a lot of good perks here, I would say. Astrodynamics increase grav jump range of jump drive by 15%, which essentially just increases the light years you can travel in a single jump. Second one is reduced fuel cost of jump drives by 15%, which is how far you can do a jump in multiple jumps at a time. Rank 3 increased grav jump range and reduced fuel cost of jump drives by 30%, so it doubles these two. Rank 4 reduces fuel cost of jump drives by 50%. Now, the first one here I think is the most powerful one, because there's kind of you're kind of capped early on how far you can jump, so this can be really good. And the fuel you can just build onto your ships really cheaply with fuel canisters. So I think the first one is the only one I would get on a later playthrough. Geology. Get more common and uncommon inorganic resources from surface objects, which means while mining with the cutter. This goes for rare, which is the 2-star one, I believe. common, just in general for anything that comes up. Common is 0 stars, uncommon is 1 star, rare is 2 star, and exotic is 3 star. And then you have the special, I can't remember what the game calls it, which is 4 star. Occasionally harvesting rarer resources from surface objects. So this can be really good if you're doing a lot of mining to increase your profits. Medicine just increases med packs, trauma packs, and emergency kits with how much they heal and how fast they heal, up to 50%. And at rank 4 it also gives you the chance to cure an affliction. Research methods is essentially how much resources you need to research a recipe or craftables at the research table. And at rank 4, sudden development during research are twice as common. Resources required to craft items and complete research projects is reduced by 60%. Which means that suddenly you will start to have overflow from something you research, which will give you progress with a different material. This can be really good when trying to complete the researching. Surveying is just increasing the distance of the hand scanner, so if you're gonna go around surveying planets and stuff, this will really ease your time. So this is one I usually go high in because I like to explore planets, so for you explorers this is almost a must. Botany. So first one here is very important. It allows some plants to be cultivated from outpost, which means you can build greenhouses that will automatically give you the items from certain plants that can be cultivated on a planet in your outpost. And you get more common and uncommon organic resources from plants. Second one, get rare. Third one, get more exotics. And you learn. And rank 4, occasionally harvest additional rarer resources from plants. By each step, you can learn quicker about a plant when scanning them, which just means that you will need to scan less of them before you complete your survey. Next one is scanning. You can detect uncommon inorganic resources on planet and moon surfaces, and more information about ships in space. Now, I see a lot of confusion about this, but when you're out in space and you scan the planet for where the different location of the different items are, let's say you're looking for iron, platinum, and vanadium. But there's only iron showing up. That's because you haven't invested into this skill. Now, this will show you a map of which biome contains which resource the further down you go. Where the first one is 0 and 1 star, the second one is 2 star, the third one is 3 star resources, and the fourth one shows you where the unique resources are. So this can be really good to do. Also, you can get better combat on ships, so this is also, or better info on ships, so this can be really good for any space cowboys out there, or space pirates, I mean, trying to get other ships or sizing up your enemies or fighting them. And where were we? There we go. Spacesuit design. This is how much you can upgrade your spacesuit, so essentially the same as Armorsmith back in Fallout 4. It also unlocks recipes in the research table. So This is essentially just improving your own spacesuits. Weapon engineering is the same as the ones for the spacesuits. You can just craft better weapon mods. Note that some of the highest tier weapon mods, to research them, you need the full tier here, plus special projects. So it's not only weapons engineering you need to unlock. If you say unlock rank 4 here, you will not get access to every single mod. You will also have to spend points into special projects, just a heads up. Next one is zoology, which is essentially the exact same as botany, just for animals instead of plants. You will learn about them quicker when scanning them. Rank 1 will allow you to place a sort of animal husbandry where you can farm animals. And you can also gather things from creatures without harming them. So rank 1 is really good for resource harvesting, and rank 2, 3, and 4 just increases your yield. Astrophysics. Rank 1, you can scan the moons of your current planet, which means you don't have to physically go there if you're at the planet that moon is orbiting. You also have a 10% chance of discovering a trait when scanning, as a lot of planets have one or multiple traits, which needs to be found in order to successfully survey the entire planet. So if that's your goal, investing in this tree is really good. Rank 2, you can scan any planet or moon in this system, and 20% chance of discovering a trait. Rank 3, you have to scan any planet or moon within 16 light years. And rank 4 is 30 light year with a 50% chance of discovering a trait when scanning. So this is mostly good for those of you who are exploring a lot or looking for specific resources. Next one is chemistry, which is the same one as weapon engineering and spacesuit design, just for meds and chemicals. Instead, it's exactly the same, but rank 3 crafting chems occasionally triples the amount created, which means your yield will be way better. So this can be a really good one if you have, well, let's say a botany farm and a animal husbandry, and you want to create money by creating meds. This can be a really good way to do it. You also need to unlock this to research said meds in the research station. Outpost engineering means that you can construct improved outpost modules. Yet again, same as chems, same as the weapon tier 1, and same as the spacesuits one. This allows you to produce and research different tiers of outpost modules. And at rank 4, outpost modules now cost 50% fewer resources to build. So if you're going to build a lot of outposts, this is a must-have. I don't even know how to pronounce this, I'm sorry. Aneutronic fusion, which means the power that your ship have that you can allocate to different items, for example grav drive, weapons, shields, engines, stuff of that. You just get extra of those, and seeing that engines are maxed out. I'm not sure what the max is. I think 32 power or something. This can increase that, so if you're building massive ships and need more power, this is the skill tree to do so. Next one is planetary habitation, which just means that you can increase the amount of outposts you can build. If you want a lot of outposts linked together, this is go for. And it will also make it so you can build outposts in hazardous environment, where rank 1 gives you the ability for deep freeze and inferno. Rank 2 is extreme pressure, which means high atmosphere. Rank 3 is toxic and corrosive planets, and rank 4 is extreme gravity. So, and also rank 1 increases outposts by 4, rank 2 by 8, rank 3 by 12, and rank 4 by 16 different outposts. So we can build a lot of different outposts in this game, and it can be mostly linked with the outpost links, which will transfer the materials between the different outposts. And then finally, for science, is special projects. Rank 1, you can research experimental project at a research lab. This is the one that you need for different weapons researching, and it is really important if you want those high tier weapon mods. Rank 2, you can craft rare manufactured components at an industrial workbench, which means essentially at industrial workbenches you can craft different craftables, ironically enough, which at the highest tier can be worth a lot of money. It can be automated with outposts, so I think this is not that good unless you specifically need parts. I think automating it in outposts are better. But then you have at rank 4, outpost extractors have a chance to produce additional resources, which is really, really good. Finally then, at the final tree, we have the tech tree. And mostly from what I understand, this is mostly just for ship flying and ship handling. It's mostly for spaceship. So again, for any space cowboys or space pirates out there, this is your tree. First of all, we have increased ballistic damage and cost 20% less to use in targeting mode. Now targeting mode is when you're flying in your ship, it's basically like VETS in Fallout 4, and you use less of your ship's call it stamina to use different attacks. Rank 2 is 20% and recharge 15% faster, which means that your targeting mode will recharge faster. Rank 3, 30% increased damage and you recharge 30% faster. And rank 4, ballistic ship weapons do 50% more damage to individual systems. So this does not mean that you deal 50% more damage in general, which is important to know. It is when you're in targeting mode, you can target specific components. A lot of people use this to target engines so they can dock with a ship. It's that specific part that takes 50% more damage. So a big difference there and quick to confuse. Next one is boost pack training, which really improves mobility a lot. So if you're walking a lot or want to get around quicker, this is massive. Rank 1, you can use boost packs. Rank 2, using boost pack expends less fuel. From what I've seen, it's almost halved. Rank 3, boost pack fuel regenerates more quickly, and I think this is almost doubled. No, actually I think this is 25% each, just about, and then with rank 4 it turns into 50% per. I'm not sure about those numbers, so don't hold me for it. It's simply what it feels like. Next one is piloting. Rank 1, you can now use ship thrusters. which is the boost essentially when you fly. Rank 2 increase ship turning rate and maneuverability, which is really useful in combat. But now we come to some massives. Rank 3 unlock the ability to pilot class D ships. Now, ship classes is either a ship class A, class B, or class C ship. The ship's classification is determined by the power generator, and where C is the highest class. Now, the better power generator you have, the better weapons you can put in, or the better engines you can put in. You can have better components on your ship when you have a better power generator. So this is very, very important skill to have if you want a better ship, and it's a must-have to be able to pilot the higher level ships. Rank 4, of course, gives you the ability to fly class C. Next one is security, which eases the lock-picking minigame. It's essentially as easy as that. And rank 4 means that you can use one digipick to eliminate keys that aren't required to solve the puzzle. Next one is targeting control system, which is the ship's VATS. Rank 1 unlocks the ability to use it. Rank 2, time to lock onto enemy ship is reduced by 50%, which means you lock on faster. And they fire at you 25% slower, so their fire rate decreases while into this. Rank 3, time to lock onto enemy ships are reduced by 30%. You have a 10% increased chance of critically hitting a target locked ship. So you get a increased crit chance essentially. Rank 4 is reduced time by 60% and deal 20% more damage in targeting mode. Next is energy weapons, which just increase energy weapon damage and reduces the cost in targeting mode, with rank 4 increasing the weapons recharge rate, which means how fast the weapons recharge when you have depleted them. Which I always feel like my weapons are out of charge and it takes forever to recharge, so this is an amazing perk. Next one is engine system, which increases top speed by 10% at rank 1. Rank 2, ship boosts last longer and the cooldown is shorter, which means you can use the boosts more often, which is amazing for avoiding fire or catching up with enemies. Rank 3 increases top speed by 20%, and rank 4, while boosting, all enemies disengage the player and can only reacquire them as a target after the player stops boosting, which means you take no damage while boosting, which is very powerful if you're in a tough spot and need to repair or just wants to get another angle on the enemy ships. Next one is payloads, which just increases how much your ship can carry, which can also be buffed by adding cargo holds, but seeing how much of an increase this is, it is really good. For example, my current ship has about, I believe, 7,000. Yeah, it can carry 7,000. And if I have I have a 20% boost, which means I would be around 5,500 without the perk, but with 50%, I have about 6,000, but with 50% I would be closer to 9,000, yeah. So this is a really good one if you don't want to carry around your stuff, or you have massive outposts where you have to move massive amounts of resources and materials at the same time to sell them off. This is absolutely an amazing perk. Next one is a shield system, which increases your shield capacity up to 60%, and at rank 4 you will occasionally resist 100% of all damage received. The next one is the missile weapons. The missile weapons is essentially exactly the same as energy weapons, which goes up to tier 3 with 30% more damage and 60% less targeting mode cost. And at rank 4 I have a 20% increased range, travel speed and reload speed. Next one, exact same for the first 3 tiers with different numbers only as the previous one. The difference is the numbers are 10, 20 and 30% here for both buffs, and at rank 4 increased critical hit chance with ship particle beam weapons. So this is the same as the missile, just for particle beam weapons instead. Next one we have is robotics, and this increases damage you deal to robots and turrets, and that you can force those enemies to stop fighting for a limited time. For the rank 1 you get a 10%, 10 levels higher, stop fighting. Rank 2 is 20%, 10 levels higher, and they can flee for a limited time. Rank 3 is 30% more damage to 10%, and 10 levels higher, you can get them to attack their own allies for limited time. And at rank 4 you can force them to obey specific commands for a limited time. Next one is starship designs. This is a must if you want build amazing ship or an amazing ship with the most high-end ship parts. This is a must. Most of the really good ship parts are rank 3, so if you're going for an amazing ship, going up to rank 3 is a must. And rank 4 is experimental ship modules, which means if you're going to absolutely max out your spaceship, you need rank 4. So this just allows you to purchase higher end ship parts, essentially. Next one is starship engineering, which has to do with rank 1 means you repair faster. This does not cover the shield regeneration rate. This just means repairing your ship's damage and your ship's components. Rank 2, ship systems have 25% increased damage mitigation. Rank 3, all ship systems repair 25% faster, so it just increases the buff of rank 1. And rank 4, occasionally repairing one block of a system will repair the entire system. Now, for those who doesn't know, one block of a system is essentially one power cell. When you allocate powers to a part, you can say the shield has 4 power cells, and if all of them are repaired, you're at 100% capacity. If 3 of them are repaired and 1 is damaged, you are 75%. So let's say your shields are completely damaged, and that will mean that repairing one block will have a chance of repairing the entire shield cell. Next one is automated weapon, which increases automated ship weapons to do more damage and reduce targeting mode cost by 20%. Next one is your ship takes 20% less damage when in targeting mode, so this can be very good, and also increases the buffs from rank 1 to 20 and 30%. Rank 3 increases crit chance of targeted subsystems by 20%, which means the specifically targeted parts you have in will take more damage. and also increases the buffs from the two previous ranks. And at rank 4, ship turret weapons recharge 40% faster and do 20% more damage to targeted subsystems. Next one is boost assault training. This is a really fun perk to have to kind of meme around, because rank 1 nearby enemies take damage when you boost and have a chance to catch on fire. So your boost pack can essentially put people on fire. Rank 2 can cause a knockdown. Rank 3, aiming down sights while boosting will let you hover in place. I don't feel like this is an amazing perk. If you struggle aiming, this can be a good perk, but if you don't have a problem aiming, this is really not that good. But rank 4 is amazing, because while hovering, time slows down and the world moves 70% slower around you. And seeing that the power that you can get that slows down the time is bugged out of... Yeah, it's really bugged and you cannot use it. This perk really picks up that slack. And I think, if I'm not completely wrong, that you can exit the slow-mo state from the power by using this perk. I'm not completely sure, don't take my word for it, but I think that's a workaround for the bug. So yeah, if that's the case, it will be double as powerful. I haven't tested this, so yeah, as I said, that's not 100% certain. And last one is EM weapon system, which gives 10% increased damage and costs 15% less to use in targeting mode. Rank 2 has 20 and 30%, rank 3 has 30 and 45%, and at rank 4, EM ship weapons have a small chance of instantly disabling enemy engines, which means this is amazing if you are trying to dock often, or are trying to steal others' ship often. And that is all for my guide for today. I currently have about 250 hours, and I feel like I wanted to share some of that knowledge with you guys. So if there's anything specifically that you want me to cover or want to go a little bit deeper into for you guys, let me know down in the comment. I know this was sort of a lengthy video, but as I said, it's a very big skill tree, so there's a lot of skills that has to be explained, because I feel this game is not that good at explaining its perks as the previous games are, and it doesn't explain as good what it affects, so kind of takes a lot of time to figure that out. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching. My name is Tokumo. If you enjoyed this one, remember to subscribe, and I catch you all later. Toke out.